Hello everyone, and welcome to Live from the Studio, brought to you by Audible, our amazing new sponsors, without whom none of this would be possible. So here we are on day 4, the last day of the Sundance Film Festival 2023. We are live streaming. What's that?
Where am I supposed to look?
Nicole's microphone isn't on, and if you just look at me, Nicole.
What?
If you, I'll come to you in a sec. I'm just doing the intro, and then.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
All right, cool. Go for it. Sorry.
So we're live streaming at the moment to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and on Live at the Studio,
Wow.
we're interviewing a cross section of people that you don't normally get to see from behind the scenes, as well as the directors and the actors. So if you're interested in independent film, in the future of film, and celebrating film, we are the show for you. So there's no show tomorrow. This is our last show, sadly. Ooh. Yeah, I think I just heard a little bit of laughter, actually. But coming up on today's show, though, we have the ebullient Lio Mehiel, and if you haven't seen Mutt, you must go and see Mutt. And then we have Wendy Mitchell, our producer extraordinaire, is chatting with Sundance and Picturehouse about what an amazing festival they've had. And then we're going to talk to director Ira Sachs, which is very exciting, about his film Passages, starring Ben Whishaw. And then finally, we go Varsity in Mariachi with director Sam Osborn and Alejandra Vazquez. And you made it just in time. So to my first guests, Nicole Holofcener and Anthony Bregman, director and producer of You Hurt My Feelings. Round of applause, please. Yay!
Thank you.
That was close.
What?
That was close.
That was close.
Yeah. 4 o'clock, you really mean 4
right.
o'clock.
Yeah, but you have
live.
been very, very busy. You both had incredibly tight schedules. How has your Sundance been so far?
Oh, it's been lovely.
Good.
Yeah, great. I mean, I now remember why I'm here, actually, is to show the movie and have been talking about it a lot, which has been great. But I'm really excited to see how the audience responds, and I'm thrilled it's sold out, and there's a second one. And I never get tired of hearing how the audience might react. So I'm going to be sitting there.
And you've both had like really busy Sundances over here because you've been keynote speaker and also you've done a masterclass. So people may not be aware, Nicole, that you are a scriptwriter and director, but you scriptwrite on other films like Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Right.
And The Last Duel. Mm-hmm. And you're an award-winning, like multiple talented person.
Fancy person.
Yeah.
Right, Aunt?
So when you're giving a masterclass.
And producer.
And producer.
I'm very fancy producer. Oh, myself, yes.
Yeah.
And when you're giving a masterclass, are you talking holistically about your whole career?
Oh, gee. Well, I just did it a minute ago.
Yeah, how did it go?
It went really great. I don't know. I didn't talk about being a master of filmmaking. That's a little too much. But I did give a lot of tips and talked about writing and how to talk to actors and what I've learned and not learned and etc. I think they liked it. They laughed.
Good. That's what we're hoping to do.
They listened.
I've promised you're going to have fun today. And Anthony, you've been the keynote speaker as well. So what have you found yourself talking about mainly? And you did the producer thing as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we also did it was actually one of the interesting questions that I was asked during the producers panel yesterday is like, what do you do when you get a script? And the answer depends on what the script is and who the filmmaker is. There's some scripts
you either
that you
throw
get
it in the garbage,
or sometimes you completely redesign it. And my experience with Nicole, and this is my 7th film with Nicole, is that I say, hey, what about making a movie about this? And she's like, no, do you want to adapt this book? And she's like, no, that's a terrible idea. And then she'll come in and say, well, here's a script. And the script that she gives us is the script that the first draft of the script that we got on this movie is basically the movie that we saw.
Wow. That's...
The movie that you see on the screen.
And
actually, it went through one big change due to casting.
Yeah.
And other than that, basically her scripts are like the job of a producer with Nicole is not really to give script notes. It's to find a way to get it made.
You still managed to give me some notes. But he's not receiving a first draft. It's something that I've worked on over and over and over. It didn't just fly out and I send it to him perfectly. I don't like to give it to oops. I don't like to give it to anybody until I'm sure it's at least a little good.
And how long did it take you to refine and draft and redraft and rewrite? How long has this idea been going on? And can you tell us the sort of premise of the idea as well?
Well, this idea came to me. It's probably taken a couple of years to get the script that I was happy with. It was kind of a what if nightmare for me, kind of a horror film for a writer who has trusted her husband for their entire career, and he's been her biggest champion and believes in her talent and loves all her work, and then she discovers he's been telling a little white lie for quite a while, and what that does to their relationship. And it just really interested me to explore whether or not you can really feel safe with someone and feel loved and seen by someone who doesn't like or appreciate your work. And I don't have any answers, but I had fun figuring it out on screen.
And when you receive a script like this, Anthony, it's such a delicious, hilarious, but really important subject. I mean, have you ever had a script like it in a way, that
Well,
drills
I think
down?
all of Nicole's scripts are like that. They all feel very, very specific and dealing with problems that you can identify with. And then the more you dig into it, they're kind of bigger problems that everybody deals with, and bigger, kind of grander philosophical issues. But they're always grounded in these very specific issues and problems and feelings of guilt that characters have, and that's the fun part.
And they're also deeply human. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I said thanks.
Thank you.
And all your characters are so deeply human and deeply flawed. I mean, no one can ask an existential question like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like when she says, "Do I buy the right socks?" That just killed me. And you feel her pain.
That's funny.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, she's brilliant in everything she does. She's a great comedian and dramatic actress, and I think she's amazing in this movie. And
because she gets it. And whenever I've seen her, she is so nuanced and so. Because it's not just funny. It is existential. It is real, and you are questioning yourself constantly.
Sure, good. I mean, if it was just silly, that would just be silly. But I think she knows how to make fun of herself and essentially make fun of me because she's playing a version of myself. But yeah, she can do everything, and I think the ability to be funny and tragic at the same time, as we all are, I think. Not always. Sometimes just funny and sometimes just tragic. But in this movie, I think the combo, she really gets it.
And the jobs that everyone do, I just thought that I love that her sister is this fashion kind of interior designer, questioning cashmere walls. I mean, is that really a thing?
That's really a thing. You have cashmere walls, right? No.
Does anyone have cashmere? Please tell me.
In his powder room.
Cashmere from Tibet.
Yeah. Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
if you look at like an Architectural Digest issue, you'll see cashmere walls, and it just makes me want to vomit.
Yeah.
That kind of wealth and waste. So I get to make fun of things like that.
And for the people working in that world, trying to be good people, trying to do the right thing, constantly questioning, constantly never really relaxing.
Do you ever really relax?
No.
To any of us about what we're doing with our lives and who we are and all that?
Absolutely.
No, while you're alive, you're not relaxed about that.
Yes. Yeah. And it just so makes you want to tell those characters, oh, chill, but we're all the same. And there is the very serious side of it as well, like the effect of not telling the truth to people like our children.
Right.
Which,
right.
I love the character of Elliot. Tell me about developing
Oh, good.
him.
Well,
Yeah.
Owen Teague plays their son, who has such, self-esteem issues and can't really tell if he might be talented or not because his parents have been telling him he's a genius for no good reason, just for being alive. And I think as parents, we tend to over-support our kids because, God forbid, they question themselves or feel insecure. And you can go overboard to the point where they don't know who they are or who's telling them the truth. I mean, my mom told me I was a really good painter. Yeah. And God damn her, because I went to art school and I got there and it was like, Ma, what are you kidding? What did you think?
But she loves you and she sees that.
Yeah, but then I felt like such an idiot. It was hard.
It is, you know, and what parent doesn't love their children's drawings, you know? So it's a very difficult line to walk, definitely.
Yeah.
And Anthony, as a producer, were you involved in any of the characterization and development? Yeah, tell me about.
It's all about him.
Was I involved in creating
in helping,
them? No, they're
helping
all
develop
Nicole's.
the character. Yeah,
They're all Nicole's, but I think I get them all. And I understand in both, you know, in this movie, but in all of her movies, there's always people who come up to me afterwards and say, like, after Friends with Money goes, I went through that thing myself where I stopped washing my hair because what's the point? Or after Please Give, saying like, that happened to me when I gave money, when I gave my, you know, the doggy bag to somebody on the street because I thought they were homeless, but they were standing in line. And all of these incidents in these movies are true,
yes.
not just because they actually happen to people, because they contain a real truth in them,
right.
And that truth in them is that it's complicated and contradictory. This civilization that we live in, and trying to do the right thing is very tough.
Yes.
Well said.
Yeah, and we should all go a bit easier on ourselves.
Yeah.
And just to talk about Don with Toby Menzies as well, because I just love, he's so hangdog, and is he a good therapist? Probably not.
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
I think he has been a good therapist and
Yeah.
probably will be again, but he's lost in a kind of middle-aged crisis, I think, a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
As cliche as that can be, it's never really said, but I think that's how he's feeling and losing his focus. So yeah, therapists can, you know, have good days and bad days.
Yeah, and the way he plays it as well is your heart bleeds for him. He's
Good.
so, you know, yeah.
Well, his feelings get hurt.
Yes, everybody's feelings get hurt, and
Yeah.
and I love the title because it is sort of, it's one of those things where no one likes to admit their feelings are hurt because it feels so childish.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
it all boils down to our hurt feelings, doesn't it? But I mean, I came up with the title as a joke, right?
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
I was like, why don't I just call this movie "You Hurt My Feelings"? Because that's how it felt. And then everyone convinced me to call it that, and it made sense. And I think it's good to kind of have a title that's making fun of itself, because after all, these are just feelings, and we get through them.
We do. And so you've got your premiere tonight. You've transcended continents because you were Sundance, Utah, Sundance, London. How does it feel to be, you know, across that? That must be quite an honor.
It's great that there is a Sundance that you can take this movie to.
Twice.
Twice, and that Sundance supports it in both places in a
Yeah.
very crucial way when it first comes out to audiences ever in Utah, and then when it comes out internationally here, it's something that is the right framework for a film like this, and films like this need the right framework.
We need Sundance, and they've been very, very good to us.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful.
And what do you make of Picturehouse? Have you ever visited Picturehouse Central before?
No, but it's very cool.
I've never been here before. I don't know what's wrong with New York that we can't have a place like this in the city where it feels like going to the movies can be a lifestyle choice. You know, that is part of like good, you know, coffee and the eating and programs like this. What's the matter with us?
Yeah. Well, we'll do something about that, Ann. Let's go into business together.
I'm sure we can discuss Picturehouse opening something in New York, and I'd be very happy to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
really
you.
good luck with
Thank
your
you.
premiere. It's
Thanks.
such a joy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so
We'll be back in
much.
2 minutes. Don't go away. Hello, welcome back everyone. And we have Lio Mehiel here. I'm so sorry.
No, it's great.
For the lead actor from Mutt. Huge round of applause, please. Yay! So, Lio, explain the hair.
Yes, I just came from a photo shoot and made it exactly in time for this interview, so the hair is still gelled to all sides.
It looks great.
I think it's a vibe. It's like my new personality.
Yeah.
Is the hair.
And I've really noticed that you have bags of. You didn't hear my introduction, but I was trying to think of a word for you, and I was like ebullient, because every time I see you, you're just on fire with like energy and joy, and it's just been an absolute pleasure seeing you going, flitting around the festival. How has it been for you?
It's been amazing. I mean, I've always been a fan of Sundance, and to be able to have premiered our film, my feature film debut at Sundance Park City, and then bring it to London has been a dream come true. Like, just the coolest thing ever. Such phenomenal films. At Sundance in Park City, there is no time to watch any movies if you're on a film team. And so the fact that I've been able to go to so many movies here, I saw Passages the other night, Scrapper on opening night. It's just been such a phenomenal, more grounded experience of cinema at this smaller festival. And so I'm so grateful to have been able to come and represent the movie.
Yeah, we're so lucky, aren't we, to have it all in this little space and beautifully curated. Even if you didn't know the titles or anything about any of the films, you just know that you can go and
They're
see.
all going to be good.
Yes,
yeah.
They totally are. So listen, let's talk about Mutt, because I love the story that you demanded this role, didn't you? Or the universe delivered you this role. So tell us how that all came about.
Yeah, so I had received a few messages over Instagram from friends being like, I saw this thing and I thought of you. And then I saw an email on a listserv that I'm on for trans actors in LA and New York. That was the character breakdown and a little bit of information about the film. And I saw the description of Fenya, and my heart stopped. I had never, up until that point, read a description of a character that was the lead part in a feature film that honored so much of my identity. And so I emailed Vuk, and I was like, you don't know me, but just give me this part, please. I'll do anything for you. And he was like, okay, calm down. Here's the script. Do an audition. And I did. And then from there, he was like, okay, I've been searching for 2 years to cast this part. He had done the Sundance Labs as a writer-director and had spent a long time trying to find someone who was both mixed ethnicity and also transmasculine, able to speak Spanish. There were just so many specificities of the story that made it hard to cast. And he had also, during those 2 years, gathered 100 audition tapes, over 100, from transmasculine actors and non-actors all across the US. And so little did I know when I was like demanding this part that there were like 100 plus other people putting their name in the ring, and I was like kind of arrogant to be like, just give it to me. No one else has seen this. No one's auditioned, obviously. But yeah, so it was very cool to be able to find all that out and then be given the opportunity to bring the story to life with Vuk. Yeah.
And for both of you, it's your debut film, and for it to be so wonderfully received, and for you to get that grand jury prize for acting, what a moment. So, tell me about, going across continents with this film and what it means to be part of Sundance like that,
I mean, Sundance, Eugene Hernandez, in a lot of his introductions, that Sundance is a festival about discovery, and it feels like such an honor to have been discovered, for lack of a better word, like by a festival that has put out some of my favorite films over my life. And so to have spent so long as an actor working on short films, being in plays, and just feeling like, okay, maybe this isn't something I can do on a larger scale. Maybe this is just something I'm doing for myself. The fact that the first time I got to go up to bat, that we got this kind of platform, and then for the film and my performance to be recognized by the jury the way that it was, it feels like cosmic. Yes. And it feels like this event is perhaps going to allow more trans and non-binary actors who have often felt like there is no room for them in the industry. What roles could they possibly play? They see this story, they see Mutt, they hear about the award, and they're like, oh, wait, there's a whole industry waiting for me. There is a path forward. And I didn't have that as a young actor, so it feels like such a gift to be able to help pave the road alongside all the other trans actors that came before me and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Huge round of applause. Thank you. And tell me, for people that don't know the film, it's really funny. It's such a bad day, So everyone can connect, can't they? Tell us the actual sort of premise of the story.
Yeah, so Mutt follows Fenya over 24 very hectic, difficult hours in New York City when he is forced to confront 3 people from his past: his younger half-sister, his ex-boyfriend, and his Chilean father who's visiting to renew his green card. And he hasn't encountered these people since he's transitioned. And so while they are old relationships, there are new dynamics at play. And it's really, it's a day in the life. It's a character-driven, relationship-driven story that just puts a really tight lens on what it's like to be a trans person in the everyday. It's not about coming out. It's not about the transition journey. It's just like I'm already myself. Now what the hell am I doing every day? You know what I mean? Like, how does it feel?
Yes, yeah. And obviously Fanya's quite a chaotic person anyway. That's who they are, and it's just, and so that's who we're relating to. Of course, this is a human story that everyone gets locked out,
Yeah, that's what really drew me to the script in particular, because it felt so refreshing to read a story where the character just happens to be trans.
Yes.
Their gender identity is not the driving motivation for the story, but instead their desire to be loved, their fear about whether or not they'll be received by their sister who they kind of abandoned, Like these different complexities that I think are really universal and so much more human than just the specifics of being trans made me excited, because I think we need more stories like that. And the fact that Vuk Longelov-Klotz, who's the writer-director of the film, he can't be here. He's brilliant. The fact that it was a trans-masculine, mixed ethnicity person behind the camera telling the story, I was like, okay, like I can trust this, and I don't have to explain myself. We can just focus on making the relationships feel real. We can just focus on making the emotional moments ring true. And all this other identity stuff is kind of just background, in the way that it always is in films.
And yes, exactly. And I love the name Mutt. Yeah. It's such a great word, isn't it? Because it's actually quite celebratory how it is in this, as well as, and it's not derogatory, it's full of dignity, and it's, because Mutt can be, ascribed to, the cross-continents, the cross-gender, and, and also the sort of the crossing generations with you and your dad, totally. and also I always think of Mutt as a very strong genetic coding as well, because it's a real mix-up,
Totally, yeah. I mean, Vuk is often asked the question, why did you choose this title? And he talks a lot about how he was interested in capturing what is a really New York identity, and also many global cities. I think London has a lot of immigrants and mixed ethnicity people all here, like that melting pot energy, like just what it feels like to be living in between cultures, in between genders, in between sort of like moments in relationship, like feeling like, okay, my whole life is in a way in transition, it's in flux, it's changing from who I was when I was a kid and my parents and school were defining who I was for me, to the point where I'm an adult now and I'm sort of defining for myself for the first time who I am, what my values are, and what relationships are worth maintaining and building. Because biological family for many queer and trans people doesn't necessarily translate to long-term support. And so it's so beautiful that in this film, the relationship between Fenya and my father, Pablo, played by Alejandra Goic, who's an amazing Chilean actor.
Beautiful
I mean, he comes on the screen and then all of a sudden we're like in a real movie. I was like, oh my God. Like, he's so talented. And so it's really beautiful to see, like, okay, here's a father who really loves his child, but just doesn't know how to say the right thing, doesn't understand, is fearful for what might happen to them for the fact that they're quote unquote different. And then you see him come to the ownership of like, I love you, I don't care, like, you're my guy, you know, that's it brings me to tears every time. There's like, for people who don't know, there's this moment where he kind of like punches him and he's like, my guy, like, and it's in Spanish, it's mi compadre, and that is just, it speaks for itself.
It does.
Yeah.
And what kind of reaction have you been getting from Mutt audiences?
I mean, it's pretty cool. People seem to like it. I'm like, wow, that's great.
And they're all laughing in the right places.
It's like great to make a movie at all. And it's even more amazing when it resonates with people. Just yesterday at the screening, this gorgeous non-binary person came up to me after and was in tears, gushing. Like, they were like, I was weeping and shaking the entire time. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, what, is everything fine? And they were like, I just was so overwhelmed. I've never seen myself on screen before. And I didn't even know that that was something I was missing.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my, I've also had that moment, you know? Like, so it was it's been beautiful and amazing, especially to meet young people, teenagers at Berlinale Film Festival. It's such a well-attended festival. And we were in the Generation Plus category. So we had cinemas full of like 13-year-olds. And I was like, I didn't even know 13-year-olds still watched movies. Like, this is amazing. And they all were just amped and excited. And I don't know, it's been really amazing to share it with audiences. Yeah.
Lio, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Really good luck with Mutt, and thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Yeah.
So we are going to be back in 2 minutes, so please stick around. Oh yes, and a huge round of applause. I keep forgetting to do that. What am I like?
Thanks so much. This is great.
Welcome back to Live from the Studio. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Wendy Mitchell, producer of Sundance Film Festival London, and I'm joined by some very special colleagues and friends. We have Anna Souza from Sundance US, one of the key programmers there. Clare Benz from Picturehouse and Paul Ridd from Picturehouse. These people are instrumental in running this festival and curating it. Anna, you've been coming to Sundance London for many years, obviously. Did this 10th edition feel any different?
Yes, actually. I think in a lot of ways, we're really finding our stride. Like, I think it's really the best I've ever seen it. It's just so vibrant and full of life, especially this year, especially post-pandemic. It's just amazing to see it all come together.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to a lot of different things. I mean, the lineup is really strong this year. I think also just, having the team on board, I think we were just hitting a really nice pace. And the industry program has just evolved so much also and just brought a whole other facet to this and really blossomed. So it's just been amazing to see that all pay off in the time that we've been collaborating.
I love it. Claire, what about you? Does this year feel any different to you?
Yes, I agree with everything Anna says. It really feels this year like we've hit the ground and we're just roaring ahead. And Anna's talked about great films, the industry program, but what fantastic guests we've had. Guests who have really taken part, have really sort of just been rushing from one panel to another, helping. Greg helped, he was doing stuff. Everybody was on board, helping out to make sure that this was a really great festival.
Yeah, Paul, what have you heard back from the filmmakers who've been here?
Well, I think one of the main things we've heard, just to give a little bit of a plug to Picturehouse, is how beautiful the films look and sound in the screens. And I mean, obviously, Anna, you mentioned about post-pandemic. I think the fact of getting people back in the room, watching films together, talking about films together, but in a space that is really really stunning in terms of the aesthetic, it's the best thing.
Yeah, I know Greg Araki said the Doom generation looked, it's newly restored, so it's already looking better than it did back then. But he said he's never really seen it looking as good and sounding as good as it did in Screen One here. I know the Philippou brothers were very happy with, they said Talk to Me has looked and sounded great. Anna, have you heard the same? Filmmakers are happy?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's also just London's such a special place, and so it's exciting to be here in the heart of it and really see sort of the breadth of the audience, the diversity of the audience. It's just exciting to see people from all walks of life being here, enjoying film. You see the real passion and love for cinema in this place.
Yeah. And I also think people like coming to London. I think the Fantastic Machine lads went on some sort of Karl Marx walking tour, as you do when you have a spare hour in London. But no, it's a great city, and we're in the heart of it here, and people can explore. I sound like I'm from the tourist board. I didn't mean to do that.
Someone was asking about a roast beef earlier, and I was going to ask, what's the best one?
It's Sunday roast time, isn't it? This is going to be hard. Do you have a favorite moment from the festival? I know there'll be many, but can you pick one, or just one moment that you're going to remember? Who wants to go?
I'll go. I think seeing after a number of films, so I can't pick one, but Past Lives, a standing ovation, was just joyous to see a full cinema, Screen One. I think Greg standing with a Greg sausage roll back. Greg
Vegan options are available.
Yeah, was pretty awesome. So those two things.
I'm going to give a quick shout out because we all day yesterday we were like, how do we get Greg Araki to go to Greg's? He was so busy going from Q&A to screening, and he didn't want to miss any moment of being in the cinema. So Storm Patterson, festival manager, said, why don't we bring Greg's to Greg? So she had the idea to get the sausage roll to him. It's blowing up on the internet, this image of Greg Araki with Greg's. Anna, Paul, who wants to go next?
I mean, I've really enjoyed the panels and the talks. I think they've been amazing, and I think that we've just been, again, to speak to this idea of the special guests that we've been able to get, like the Sex on Screen panel, and just that's the kind of panel where the panelists were all talking to each other and asking questions of each other, and it just became this kind of electric conversation. These are the things that are so unique that you can't again replicate anywhere else.
So I think these moments have been really special in the industry. Again, the Talks program has been really incredible, and that's also a testament to you, Wendy.
Oh, thank you. I'm so, what I remind people every morning that, we had about, 15 or 20 industry experts here doing a talk at our brunch today. And it's Sunday morning. All of these people have other jobs, have other lives. We don't pay them to come here. Most of them didn't even get a free bacon roll, But everybody's really keen to do it. And I think it's partly because of the format. You sit at a table, you're actually connecting with people. They're hearing directly from emerging talents. And I think the experts get something out of it too, we hope.
And those conversations don't just take place at the brunch. I see people continuing to talk, to continue to discuss. And it's that easy access people have to the experts that
there's
you don't get.
There's no VIP room here.
There's no sort of massive process in order to get to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And everybody's around and about available. And I think that is the generosity of the guests.
People.
Yeah.
Paul.
Well, I think also just a film like Scrapper, which obviously was made in the UK and is such a sort of amazing calling card for Charlie Regan, the director, and all the talent involved in that film. The fact that it went to Sundance, won that prize, and then kind of came home here and had its premiere here. It was just very moving to kind of see the team on stage and get such a rapturous response from the audience. That was amazing.
Yeah, Scrapper went down so well. Perfect film. Just also they've been so happy, that team, that whole team. And, Charlie Regan was here yesterday, and she was so excited because I got her 4 film tickets, so she could just binge on cinema yesterday after her duties were done. And she just watched 4 films and was in heaven. And I don't think always the filmmakers have all the time to do that in Utah, so I think it's the smaller vibe here we can do. Yeah.
No, we love that it's one location, and I think we get a lot of quality time with the filmmakers, and that's something that's very special.
Tonight we're closing with Nicole Holofcener's You Hurt My Feelings. Anybody want to tell us why this is the perfect closing film? Paul Rudd.
Well, I suppose Nicole Holofcener has this amazing career of really caustic, funny indies, and this film in particular, I guess, kind of it's jovial, it's really funny, it's got this amazing central performance from Julia Louis-Dreyfus, but it gets to something really quite kind of primal in relationships between this couple who kind of, one of them mishears or hears something they shouldn't hear from their partner. And it just makes you kind of really ask questions about yourself, about your partner, and it's just a beautiful film.
I'm watching it with my husband who's going to be here, so we'll see if we're still talking at the end of the night. He's not even listening, he's chatting to friends. Tonight is our traditional, the staff and some filmmakers and our volunteers always have a little boogie to end things out. Tell me a song you would like to dance to tonight. Anna? I like a little bit of Rihanna, We Found Love. That always gets me going. Anna, do you have one?
Sia. Anything by Sia is a danceable song in my mind.
Claire, we know what you're going to say, so I'm going to go to Paul first.
It's wall-to-wall Katy Perry.
Okay. And Claire, what do you got to hear?
Well, it's going to be ABBA, Wendy.
I do know it's going to be ABBA.
Dancing Queen. In fact, the whole album I'll take.
Okay, maybe we can just put that on.
I could be in a corner on my own with a pint of beer, and I'd be happy.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. Hopefully you're not going to be in a corner on your own, because we have a new family that this festival has built over the past 4 days. So thank you all for being here. This festival, I'm proud of all of us, and I think our audiences are happy, and our filmmakers are happy, and our industry is happy, and that fills me with joy. Sorry to be Marie Kondo about it, but I'm proud of everything this group has achieved, so thank you. And now I'm going to tell you that we're going to be able to watch a video of an interview that we did earlier in the festival with Ira Sachs, the great Ira Sachs, talking about Passages. So we'll now go to that video.
So welcome, director Ira Sachs, to Live from the Studio, even though this is a bit of a pre-record. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we get started, I want to ask you about your premiere last night, being here at Picturehouse, and you had Ben Whishaw here. How how was it for you, and how is it being part of the sort of crossing continents with Sundance?
Well, it's been wonderful. It's an incredible space you have here, and everyone I know from New York, where I'm from, are like, why don't we have a place like this? Like, this is what you want, a community that can enjoy cinema but also enjoy themselves. It's just, you're doing something right.
Thank you. And you know, so many people come here to write and talk about films, and you know, like I was chatting with the director last Sundance where he said he wrote his film here in in Central. I was just like, that's perfect. That's just what you want to hear.
Yes.
So, do you mind for our viewers, if you could give a brief overview of your brilliant film, Passages?
Thank you. I made a film called Passages in Paris, France. It's a film, a story about two men who were in a relationship for a long time, and the woman that one of them has an affair with. So it's a love triangle about want and desire and what we can't have.
It definitely is. And I mean, for me, when I was watching it, it's quite a specific form of bad behaviour that Thomas indulges in. And I really felt for him on so many levels. He's quite vulnerable. He's a really interesting character. And I don't think I've ever seen it on film before, and especially across gay and straight relationships, that boundary bashing. You know, like, yeah.
Well, I wrote the film for Franz Rogowski, the lead actor. I saw him in a film by Michael Haneke called Happy End, and he's just like a beast of cinema. And I was really compelled to construct something for him, to collaborate with him. And I knew that he could pull off a bad guy because he's so attractive at all levels. Like, he's kind of brilliant, he's free, he's beautiful, he's forceful, he's funny. So to me, he reminds me of an actor like James Cagney, someone who makes the sociopath look good.
Yes, yes. And it takes you a long time to realise that that's what's going on.
Yes.
And how interesting, in our line of work, as you know, some people are given license to behave like he does. So you're introduced to Thomas as a director.
Yes.
So I wondered, was there any kind of like, you know, in looking at what you may have been allowed to become?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel I'm allowed every day to take the power that I have and potentially exploit it. So it's always a risk. And I think that's not just true for film directors. It's not just true for you know, people who are given like specific power or money, but it's very true for men specifically, in the sense that we come with a certain kind of physical prowess which allows us to dominate.
Yes.
And the question of domination is the question of our world, of our lives.
It's very true, and I think men can tweak themselves very physically, very quickly to assert that dominance. It doesn't have to be anything that's said, and it's quite interesting, I thought, in your shots, the way Thomas gets in people's faces. And I love that shot where you can't see Ben Wishel's face because Thomas is right in it, completely manipulating and controlling that situation.
Well, I try to set up the camera in a place in which the audience has a privileged position because they're able to watch they're in the room.
Yes.
But they actually can't intrude, they can't interrupt. So there's like this, you're inside but you're outside. You're part but you're also excluded. And I think that creates a particular kind of relationship between the audience, the spectator, and the film.
It does, but also it was very unjudgmental. I felt that you didn't judge Thomas.
No, I love Thomas.
Yes.
I really love him.
Yes, I did, and I wanted the best for him. I wanted it to be okay for all of them.
Yes.
And your cast was so equally matched. I thought that was beautifully done.
Thank you. I work with Adele Exarchopoulos and Ben Whishaw, who are equally, they're equally powerful in their own ways as performers, and they're also fascinating. Like, I like to watch all three of these people, and I think that's part of the pleasure of the film. I also feel like, why tell a story about people you don't like? Like, for me, it's the first rule of being a storyteller is to have compassion for the people you're telling a story about. Why spend time doing it? And if you don't, that distance between your compassion and what you're presenting is actually a weakness in the film.
Yes, yes. And also I thought what was really interesting about it was it does transcend sexuality. Yes, the setup is this bizarre love triangle, but also I could absolutely absolutely relate to, like you say, it doesn't have to be a director, as a parent, as a friend, using one's own dominance, testing people and their boundaries and where they will go. And I loved Ben Whishal's performance, where you just see him, and then whatever, he breaks.
And then he bites.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then he says, and then he slices.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I think of Franz as an animal. I think of Adele as a goddess, and I think of Ben as a knife.
Love it. Yes, that's perfect. And I totally see that. And I love the chaos of Thomas. His bicycle thrashing around. Tell me about the bike. Was that it's an interesting choice of transport for a director.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was working with Franz, and one of the things I do when I'm making a film is I try to be really receptive and open to what's happening in front of me. Jean Renoir, the director, said something which I think is very useful, which is when you're making a film, keep the window open and let the world in. And I think that's where I have to position myself. So I noticed that Franz was like a kamikaze bike rider. So I wrote the scenes on the bike based on who he is. They weren't in the original script. And I think there's an important scene at the end of the film, towards the end of the film, that's all bicycling in Paris. And almost no other actor that I know of could do that, because it's really like...
dangerous?
It's very, very dangerous, to be honest, but it was also just how Franz is in the city.
Yeah, it was brilliant to watch. It was such an exciting, dynamic film, and I just, what's been the reaction? What was the reaction at Sundance? What was the reaction last night?
Yeah, I think it's been very rewarding, because I feel the film connects to an audience. It's also rewarding to see a lot of young people who are connecting to these characters. I think the difference between these characters and myself, I'm 57 and they're in their 30s and 20s, is that they are in their idea of who they are is not defined or limited by a label or by a name of identification. They love who they love. They're attracted to who they're attracted to, and I think that's like new. There's something new about that.
Definitely, and I really hope for Thomas that he will learn. I've been thinking about him a lot, and I just think he will get some humility and he will thrive.
Well, I believe that without a moment of respite, a moment of insight, the film just is flat. Like, you have to feel that the characters come into an encounter with themselves. And that's really what is the catharsis for each of them.
Yes, absolutely. Ira Sachs, thank you so much for joining us on Live from the Studio. I really appreciate your time, and good luck with your incredible film.
Thanks so much.
Hello and welcome back to Live from the Studio. I know he's not here, but a huge round of applause for Ira Sachs. Yay! He was such a generous interviewee, and his film is brilliant. So please do go and check out Passages. So we thought, as it's the end of the festival, we give a little bit of time to some of our volunteers. I think you've seen the volunteers all around the cinema, and they are incredible. Some of them work at Utah, some of them work at here as well. They do both festivals, which is amazing. And here we have Sophia and Alex, who have been the runners for this show, and I could not have done this show without them. I am so grateful to them both. And I thought, woo! And I thought I'd introduce them to you because they are filmmakers as well. They're student filmmakers, so they're learning everything about their craft while they're here as well. So tell me about your experience, Sophia, so far.
It's been great. We've been able to not only help you, which has been very enriching in itself, but we've been able to actually go to some events. Yesterday we went to the Producers Live with some great producers like Anthony Bregman, and I think it's very useful for aspiring filmmakers like us to be able to listen to their stories and how they've gotten to the place where they are today. So I think everyone can really learn a lot from this festival.
It's been super inspiring to hear that literally everyone is just battling to make it in the film world. It's been hard for everyone, and that was really inspiring for me because I was like, is it easy? Am I the only one finding it hard? But everyone here is so helpful. The energy at Sundance is amazing, and I'm so grateful to have been here.
Yes.
And tell me what's been the highlight for you.
For me, the highlight has been going to the films and actually like seeing these filmmakers speak about how they got there. And yeah, it's just the energy of the people. Everyone's very open and passionate about their projects, and it's very approachable the way people behave here. So it's great.
And for you, Alex?
There's so many fabulous opportunities here. Like, we've been able to meet everyone through doing this show, basically, and it's crazy how nice everyone is. Like, everyone wants to help you, everyone wants to give you advice, and yeah, it's just been amazing, all of that. I love meeting everyone, and yeah.
And do you think you'll be back next year?
We would love to.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much to Sophia and Alex, and a huge round of applause, please. Yay! And we'll be back in a couple of minutes with our next guests, who are the directors of Going Varsity in Mariachi, Sam Osborn and Alejandra Vazquez. So please don't go away. See you in 2 minutes. And welcome back to Live from the Studio. With me, Flick Beckett. I never introduced myself. Maybe people don't care, but anyway, I better say it just in case. I am delighted to be wrapping up 4 days of Sundance, interviewing Sam Osborn and Alejandra Vazquez for Going Varsity in Mariachi. For me, the docs at Sundance are always second to none, but to be finishing with this film is just so perfect for Sundance, because Sundance always brings something that you didn't even know that you needed to know to the table. So how is I've seen you around loads, so tell me about your Sundance experience in London so far.
It's been amazing. It's our first time in London, and I feel like this was the perfect first time to have in London. Yes. You know, it's just like walking around, so many people. The audiences here have been incredible. It's been really great.
And for you, Sam?
I mean, the theaters themselves are incredible. The actual rooms where you watch the movies, they're so good. It's a beautiful cinema, beautiful rooms. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, Picturehouse is a bit special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even though I do work for them, but I do, it's with good reason.
Our new favorite cinema. We love it here.
Thank you very much for saying. Not that I've forced you into saying that, of course. So I wonder if you could start by explaining what the varsity program means, because we don't have that over here. And I did understand that there was collegiate football and chess or cheerleading, but mariachi. I mean, how did you find out about it? Alejandra, should I ask you that first?
Yeah, sure. We were filming a different project along the border when we learned that for the first time, these competitions were being competed on a state level in Texas. So, of course, it's very American to turn anything into a competition, even mariachi music. But we were immediately intrigued. We were like, what is that? We had never heard of that. We're both Mexican filmmakers, and we were like, we have to know this. We have to see this. And so that was our entry point.
Yeah, I mean, in Texas, there's over 150 teams that actually form varsity programs, and it's varsity because they're the best in the school. So there's usually varsity, JV, and then beginner.
Oh, okay.
And varsity is really just the best of the best. It's kind of like the all-star team within the high school. And these teams really are fiercely competitive, and they mostly come from the borderlands. There are other states like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and California that also have similar programs, but none are as developed as Texas is. Texas has really figured it out. It's the only place in the world where you can study it in elementary school, middle school, major in it in college, and then actually make a living as a mariachi player. It doesn't even exist in Mexico.
Wow. And so, I mean, I had never really thought of mariachi as something to take so seriously in a way. And it has really big consequences for its students, sort of beyond the music. So I wonder if you could tell us a bit about that and how you chose to tell the story of varsity and mariachi.
Totally. I think when people think of mariachi, they think of the men who go in restaurants and play music, who go from like table to table playing songs. And mariachi is so much deeper and cultural than that. There are these huge groups that come together and play this music, and we wanted to treat them with a lot of respect, a lot of dignity, because, you know, usually they're like shown as a caricature of Mexican culture, and so we wanted to treat them with, you know, a lot of respect, to show the performances with a ton of cameras, dynamic performances, you know, to show the emotion behind the music as much as possible.
Yeah, we were going through like any archival we could find in old films in from Hollywood that showed mariachi, and they're all like so racist. It's all just like it's been so poorly represented in movies over the years, and we just thought, like, there's a real space here. There's a real space to represent this cultural thing in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea how complex a music it is, like the time signatures that people have to learn. And, you know, you can spend your life literally studying mariachi, and I got it. And I was like, wow, you know, like, this is an art, an absolute art. Of course it is, you know, but I had never understood that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not just the complexity of the music. I mean, the working mariachi bands have to know, like, over 100 songs, because they're basically like walking jukeboxes for this traditional art form. And so they have to be able to play basically any song that someone at a birthday party, a quinceañera, or anything, a funeral, throws at them, and they have to be just like ready to go.
It's not just gigs, it's like huge venues. They play in arenas, you know, like the biggest mariachis are like playing with thousands of people. So it's not just like small cultural or family events, it's also these big, huge arenas.
And it's so stressful. I mean, I loved personally the story of Abel, you know, and his school, is it Edinburgh North High School? You focused in on them, because you could have chosen one of the ones that were really zinging, you know, but you went for one that's struggling, you know. Was that conscious?
Yeah, we thought they'd be better. They were in the top echelon of the state, so they had been up the best. There are, of course, 2 or 3 teams that are like elite, that they're on Spotify, you know, they're like hired to play at the presidential inaugurations. But that's not as interesting. I don't think it's as interesting to only follow the dominant team. I think we wanted to follow a team that is annually figuring it out, just like perennially underdog.
Totally. I think an underdog story was really interesting for us, and we just loved Abel too. The way he conducted his team, I mean, mariachi is his life. Yeah. You know, he played mariachi in the same high school. He studied it in college. He met his wife while being on the same mariachi team. It truly is his passion and his life, and that's what he wants to convey to his students, to pass it along and pass it down, continue this music.
And you do really get the sense of, you know, this not just being about mariachi, this is a social justice awareness film as well, to see the lack of funds and the amount of work this man puts into his students and teaching. I mean, yeah, tell me why you chose to sort of not necessarily focus on that, but that was very much the underlying story, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we really kind of obliquely touch on, because we didn't really want to attack it head on, because it wasn't really what the kids or the student or the teachers were really engaged with. But yeah, I mean, I think Abel is forever putting his own money into the system. He's always going above and beyond, because the funding isn't there for arts programs in the country, period. And so he has to do it himself. And it means that the kids, he has to kind of pick up the slack for the state to make sure his students are given the opportunities that he thinks they should have. And the same goes for ideas of immigration. I mean, they're all dealing with it. They're all there on the border. All their parents come from different methods of documentation and different points of immigration, and he has to make the room where they practice a safe space, where all that can be left behind and you can focus on this traditional Mexican culture and like finding your roots and leaving all that politics behind you. And so that's why I think we let it just be rather than fully, you know, attack it.
Did you want to add to that?
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, we wanted to focus on the joy and the beauty in this music and in this culture. I feel like a lot of stories about the border tend to focus on immigration stories, crossing the border stories, which are all very important stories, but there are so many people that form lives here, that live here, that play music here, and we just wanted to focus on that, on the lives of the first, second, third generation immigrants.
And I mean, it must have been so hard to choose who to focus on, and I know that you won the award quite rightly for editing, because it was an incredible feat. So yeah, tell me, what you had to go through in your editing nightmare.
Yeah, well, there's 20 kids on the team,
yes.
And you can only hold so many storylines in your head. So we filmed 300 hours, and we really got editing only 2 or 3 months into production. So we knew there were 8 more months of production, but we thought we have to get out ahead of it, and we have to just start figuring out who on this team kind of shows up well on camera. Yeah. So we would shoot scenes and send them back to the editor, and she would edit them and then let us know, okay, you need this from that character, or this character isn't coming through the way you think they are. And she really just guided us through production, which is really unique to be able to have the editor start so early, because it means that everything is informed by the edit rather than informed from what you shoot in the field.
Yeah, I was just going to say, our editor, Daniela Quiros, she was amazing. Just as Sam was saying, she was a true collaborator, and because of her, we got some people were like, oh, there's too many characters, or there's this and that, and she was like, no, this is the story. We were like, yes.
Good, yes.
Another collaborator on the team.
So valid. And I really commended the story of the girls, who are in a relationship, because that's, and it wasn't, you weren't judging about what the culture is that they're existing within or anything like that. They are just existing, and they're doing their thing, and we didn't need to know anything else, really. Tell me about the...
Yeah, I mean, so it's a queer couple on the team, and we didn't want to tell the story of are they accepted by their families or their team? The truth is that they were accepted by everybody.
Yes.
And their story was more so they wanted to be educators, and they were like, can we be educators in the state of Texas? It was more like the bigger, institution, the bigger state, and whether they would be accepted by that. And we just wanted to tell a romance, a love story, You're in high school. Those relationships define your life, and that's kind of what we wanted to focus on, as opposed to anything else within the relationship.
Well, and relationships are not allowed on the team. It's he thinks it's they always bring their drama onto the team, and then it creates little factions within the Mariachi group. And so, but it happens every year. There's always 1 or 2 secret relationships on the team. And so we kind of figured it out halfway through and knew that we had to feature a relationship, because who knows what could happen, right?
Yeah.
Drama.
Yes.
Drama.
It was just wonderful. I can't tell you, it's a film that's so full of joy and pain and an incredibly rewarding watch. I can't thank you enough for making it and introducing me to something I had no idea about. So yes, a huge round of applause, please, to Sam Osborn and Alejandra Vazquez for Going Varsity and Mariachi.
Thank you.
So before we go, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's taken part, especially in today's show. We had Nicole Holofcener and Anthony Bregman. Thank you to Lio Mehiel. Thank you to Alex and Sophie. Thank you to Wendy, Anna, Clare and Paul. Thank you guys for being here. And it's just been a pleasure to be here every day, live from the studio, and we hope to see you all again next year. Thank you so much.
It's on, it's good.
I think this setting here is brilliant, with the industry leaders making connections and seeing some great films.
I've always been interested in language and how it offers different ways of perceiving the world.
I never thought I would be anything as grand as a feature film producer, but I wanted to change the world with documentaries.
This is a film about growing up, about falling in love, about listening to music and playing music and community.
I think the hardest thing to do as a filmmaker is to be able to step back from your own work.
Film is telling a story through the body. We get 80% of our information from somebody else in our conversations, from what's happening in the body.
I didn't let them touch each other until we shot that scene where they meet to see each other for the first time in 24 years.
And I was like, you don't know me, but I am this part, and I will do anything. Just please give it to me. And he was like, all right, chill, just read the script and do an audition.
This is actually the UK premiere.
The combination of Sundance with all that is
Picturehouse. This kind of building on multiple floors in the center of the city, it's just amazing.
You never know whether or not like some of the Australian humour is going to translate, and it did, so that's always surprising. UK and Australia are more similar than you'd think.
I just can't, overstate enough how important England is to me. Almost all my favorite bands are from here, so something in the water here, I guess.
Greg Araki is working his socks off as we speak, going from event to event. Everywhere I go, people are talking to each other. The films have gone down a storm. Our guests have been so up for it.